Welcome back for another amazing Testimony Tuesday. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Alfred Blue. Alfred and I went to church together when I was in Dallas, and so I figured he would be a good person to talk to about relationships.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Thanks for having me. First off, I think what you're doing is so dope. I think there is so many people who want to hear a Christian perspective, but don't necessarily go inside the four walls of a church. So I think what you're doing is dope, and I'm glad. So I think we're having a good time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What would you say is your most influential relationship in this season of life?
I would say my mother, and here's why. So, my mom, both of my parents are pastors. I've been in full-time ministry my entire life. My entire life. And I'm very close with both of my parents. They are incredible. And the thing I love about our relationship, and especially with my mom, is I think the older I've gotten, the closer we have become. I think I talked to some of my friends, and there's this kind of thing that when you get older, you distance, like you need your parents less. I would say in my life, it's been the opposite. So I've grown closer because of different experiences. So whether it was becoming a professional, whether it was when I was campus pastor, obviously leaned a lot on them in that role, navigating some of the church politics at the last place, and especially in my relationship with my girlfriend now. They have been my number one resource because they've lived it. They know me inside and out. And most importantly, they love God. And so they're able to be that guiding light. I've been blessed to have great mentors, but I think my parents, my mom, especially in the last little bit, has just been incredible, man. Been absolutely incredible. It sucks sometimes because they know you so well. So again, I think when it's your parents, they just know more about you than you think they do, than you realize. And they're just able to really speak to you in ways that I think very few other people could, in my case anyway. So what has it been like for you to, I mean, you went to college, you graduated, right? Moved away from home, had a life, were on your own, did you were doing things the right way, right? And you weren't out here like turning up and all that, like serving in church, doing the quote unquote right thing.
Right.
What is it like for you to now be back at home, kind of rebuilding in a sense, or redoing some things? How is that?
So for me, moving home, the biggest struggle for me was always moving back to the city more so than moving within the four walls of my mom's home. For me, this city resembles a lot of death, a lot of heartache, a lot of sorrow, and I did not want to come back into that. I would always say, like, I'm never moving back to Louisiana or New Orleans because, the crime rate is terrible, the education is terrible, the job market, just all these things. But there was never any like formal proof to back that up. It was kind of just like my ignorance in thinking those ways. Then when this position or this opportunity opened up, it was kind of just like at that point, I kind of really had no choice because I had been unemployed for, over 10 months at that point. And then I was living with strangers, essentially, like people that I had met in church who were amazing and, very kind to me, but nonetheless, they were still strangers to my family. And so I think my mom was very supportive throughout that whole experience. She was never like, you have to come home. Like, like she was never like condescending about it. She was always very like, she knew that I was making mistakes, but she kind of would just let me figure that out on my own. So I think that's a really good thing about our relationship. But I would say it's been good. Like, we're very similar and very different in so many ways. So it's always very funny. When I would come home for breaks, I would be like up under her all the time. Like I would sleep in her bed. I would like watch TV. Like I would do everything with her. But when I came back home, I knew that I needed to be intentional about making sure that there was that space because I didn't want to get on her nerves. I didn't want her to get on my nerves, like within a few hours of me being back in the house full time. So, I mean, it's interesting because we see each other so infrequently that we have to intentionally like spend time together. Like we have to intentionally like schedule a date to do something together. But I mean, I would say it's been great. She's been very supportive. She's been very encouraging. I think she's happy to have me back home, especially with me being gone for 2 years and then me kind of being like up in the wind for that time. She really just didn't have, there was no real structure to my life at that point. And so I'm sure she's very happy and has a lot more peace at night knowing that
Right. He
next
knows
door.
where you're at.
Yeah.
Good.
I know. So both of your parents are pastors. Um,
Yeah.
how has your relationship with your parents essentially impacted or kind of influenced your relationship with God?
I think they let me find my relationship with God on my own.
Mm.
And for that, I am so grateful because I can be myself in my walk with God, right? I don't feel this pressure to be a pastor. Parents are
Yeah.
like, whatever God puts in your heart, we're going to support you 2000%. So I played college basketball. I think I told you that. I played college basketball for 3 years. That was a blast. My parents would drive up to Kansas and come to a game. I mean, at every step of the way, no matter what it was, my parents have supported me and
Mm-hmm.
also encouraged me in my walk with God. And so we have a lot of very frank conversations about whatever,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate them because I have so many friends who are also pastors' kids and they hated it. And a lot of them are so far from the church or whatever because I think it's very hard growing up in a pastor's house because you get to see a lot of the negative side of
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Our parents did a great job of helping us understand that our role as pastors' kids and that title meant absolutely nothing, right? So it didn't help you, so you don't get no more food or you don't get to be bad or anything like that because you're a pastor's kid. And I mean, you're just like every other kid here.
Yeah.
And um, and so I think that really helped us develop this framework of I have my own relationship with God. I have to own my own relationship with God, and it's always been that. So I'm really grateful for that to this day. To
Yeah.
this day.
I think that's important because you can't, like, we talk about going to the church and following these rules and doing all these things, but like sometimes people don't realize that, like, having it's not about a religion or doing XYZ to fit into this category. It's about what your walk looks like and what your
Oh
heart
yeah.
looks like in terms of your relationship with God. Because if you don't have that dynamic and that relationship on your own, then there's it kind of is just, it defeats the purpose of you saying, yeah, I'm a Christian, or yeah, I'm this or I'm that. Because if and I think I was listening to a sermon today actually, and they were talking about how in the world we get so far that we begin to see things differently, we begin to hear things differently, and when you don't have that own relationship for yourself with God, then it's hard for
Oh,
you
you're
to
done.
say, yeah, like there's no real guidance and structure in your life. You're kind of just I'm gonna figure it out as I go type thing.
Yeah.
uh, I want to talk about the difference between like actually going to church or like doing church and actually having
Mhm.
a relationship with God. What does that
Yeah.
look like to you?
What I think a lot of pastors' kids are expected to be some like spiritual being and walk on water and be perfect, right? And so my parents freed us from all of that, and they're like, look, be who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
don't come to church on Sunday and act like this thing or this person. If
Mm-hmm.
you are not a super wild prayer, don't pray like that on Sunday, right? Be who you are all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think for me, that's really defined my walk with Christ. Is I've always tried to do like whatever I do just for me, right? I do because it is a relationship, and just like anything else, you really have to grow and develop that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it evolves. I think that's the hard part for a lot of us is when you get to certain places, just like any other relationship, it can plateau if you don't start to do something a little different or
Right.
take it to another level. And so for me, I found what my relationship looks like, and it's night and day from what my parents' relationship looks like,
Mm-hmm.
or even my brothers, right? But it's mine, and that's what's dope about it. And have you seen, Jazz, when like two people just have a connection, like it's super weird, and nobody else has it, and they can like look at each other from across the room and cut up,
Yeah.
like that type of thing. That's what I feel like I have with God. And it's not that, no, it's not better or worse than anybody else's. It's just ours. And
Yeah.
so and even in times when I struggle and don't feel like doing the thing, it is again, you go back to that, like it's a relationship. It requires work. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we believe that it's just gonna, we don't see it like any other relationship. We see, and it's different, obviously, but it requires effort and sacrifice and love and all that, like so many others. And so it's different in that way. I think if you limit your relationship with Christ to a Sunday thing, you're just gonna be really upset by it. Really, really, really upset by it.
Yeah, I think, and to add to that, a lot of people confuse religion with relationship. Um, and we're taught like you have to read for X amount of minutes, or you have to worship reflecting this, posture, or you have, just things that you have to do to say, I'm a Christian, or I believe in God, or, and I think that a lot of times we don't, or the importance of that connection is not stressed enough, like that, the importance of what your time with God looks like, because like you said, yours is different from your brothers and even from your parents, but you specifically invested time on developing that relationship and enhancing it and making sure that, when y'all are across the room, y'all have that connection, like, hey, what's up,
Yeah.
as opposed to like saying, I don't know, it's just, I think too many people put too much pressure on following rules rather than focusing on what your heart looks like in that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would dare to say that for so many of us, the church did that to us, right? Like that the environments that we were in, and even the best leaders, sometimes they didn't have great examples of what that whole dynamic looked like. We have made the church this this set of behaviors that you have to abide by. And obviously the Bible is our guide. Obviously, we love Christ and we want to model ourselves after him. But that's going to look different ways for different people,
Yeah.
and how you grow your relationship with God and how you nurture that is you. I mean, to me, it's like studying, right? Like when I was in law school, there's people who like study groups, right? And there's people who like flashcards, and then there's people who like to just sit by themselves and read for 8 hours. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you are able to pass a test and if you can do well, then whatever works for you is what works for you. And I think it's the
Yeah.
same thing with walk with God. Like, yeah, if it's a Bible study that you do with some people, then do that. If it's, whatever else, listening to sermons when you wake up at 6 a.m., do that. Whatever it looks like is fine. I think God gives us a model, a framework for where he wants our hearts to be and how he wants us to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
then how we execute that, how we do that is up to us. I think dating as a young Christian can be real tough,
Yeah.
right? I think it can be real tough, and the the cultural kind of atmosphere that we're in, the stigmas that come along with being being a Christian. I think for women it's especially tough. Like, you know, um, the numbers show it, right? Like especially in the African American demographic, that I think it's like 60% females. And there's just
Mm-hmm.
not enough men to go around. Okay, that's what I'm saying. There's not enough. But is there that fear of I may end up alone? And the real question I'm asking is, does that make you almost want to not compromise, but do you almost adjust some of your standards or your own behaviors to sometimes keep a guy or get a guy that you may not, you know what I mean, that may not normally be who you are?
At least within the last year and a half or so, I would say I've come into this like getting to know who I am, learning what my worth is, my value,
Mhm.
um, learning what I enjoy doing, what I don't, like just things. I'm learning who I am as a person, because all my
Yeah.
life I've always been in like situationships or attempting to date people, and I've never really just been alone to just kind of be like, what's up, how you doing? And my biggest thing
Yeah.
is, if I don't like my company, why would anyone else like it? So I really had to learn how to fall in love with myself before I could just like put myself out there. Where I am in my singleness is really content. Every now and then I like, this is so weird. Every now and then I like get a crush on someone, and I like zone in on the crush and be like, yeah, that's my husband. And then God will be like, but that's like, you don't even know that person. Like you've never met them. You've never seen them in person. Like you don't know anything about them. You just know that they're attractive. And I'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're right. You're right. Like, let me fall back. Um, But I think for me, the biggest thing is I am a firm believer that God will give you the desires of your heart. And so if I know that I'm praying to God that I want this kind of man with, he's going to have this kind of character, we're going to have this kind of life together, then I'm going to continue to pray for that until I get it. I don't believe that I should have to settle. Like, I know that I'm worth enough to get what I want. And so if I just continue to seek God, then what he's going to give me the desires of my heart, regardless of what that looks like. And if I'm praying for something that's not good for me, he's not going to give it to me. And I mean, that's happened plenty of times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is my man. Like, we going to be together. And God to be like, that fool is crazy. You don't want nothing to do with him.
Right.
And
Right.
I'll be, I get upset about it, but then I'm like, okay, you was right. Let me chill.
Because I think, and you said something so profound that if it's not right for you, then God won't give it to you. I think a lot of male and female, right? We have this picture in our head of this person that, like, this list, right? We have this list, and on this list is they need to make X amount of dollars and, have this type of career and look this way. Obviously, he needs to be over 6 foot, maybe 5'10". Like, you have all these things, and and I'm just talking about my friends now, like, I think sometimes when we say, yeah, we want a guy that's after God's own heart, or we want whatever, a guy with godly character or a woman with godly character, sometimes we say that because it has to be on the list. Like, it's bad to not have it on the list.
Right.
When you get that person, sometimes their behaviors, they challenge us, right? They force us to grow up and mature and not be selfish and all those things. And that's tough. And it's funny though, I think about friends who, again, were like asking God for a guy or whatever, and then they meet a guy and that's the flaw, or it's something about him. Oh, well, he doesn't do everything, whatever it is. I think rarely does it come in the form that we want it to come in.
Yeah.
But we're also innately selfish people. We want, a lot of what we want is self-serving. So we just want somebody who's going to meet all of our needs. And um, and it don't happen like that. I'm in this relationship now. It's not about what you give to me and all about what I give to you. But if you got both people who are chasing God and thinking like that, I think you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I would also say that I'm very fortunate to have young Black couples around me. So when I lived in Texas, I knew quite a few whether they were newly married. I knew some newly married. I knew some that had been together for 4+ years. They were all still relatively young, and whether they were new, just starting their families, whether they had children already, it was really important for me to see the dynamic in the household and see that not every household is gonna look the same. But then I'd also add that for me, it's all about purpose. If you are just out here, I'm trying to make this money, or I'm trying to get all these, if you don't really have a real reason for what you're doing, you don't need to be nowhere in my space. Like, there's nothing that we have to talk about. And for me, if you're not coming correct, and if you're not coming with God first, then there's no reason for you to come to me at all.
So I think what you said about having other relationships is so profound, right? I think having people who are where you're trying to go, right, and model biblical relationship is so huge, right? Especially, like you said, in the Black community where the divorce rate is 60% or 70%, whatever it is now. I mean, it's crazy. So many of us, not me in particular, but so many of us in our demographic grew up without fathers in our lives. So our concept and our idea of marriage is either based on something that we've seen like on TV or somewhere else, or we just got a messed up one, right? So so having people who can model that, I think, is incredible. It's so important. So I think part of my reworking and centering myself is surrounding myself with people in my inner circle. I mean, people who know me in the most intimate ways. Surrounding people who are young and married, right? Or not even young, but married, and navigating this whole space. Because I don't think there's a way that you're ever fully prepared for being married. And so having those people that you can call and be like, hey, this is happening. You know, we've been married for 6 months. The honeymoon phase is kind of faded away, and now I can't stand her. What do I do? Like, how did you make this work? Having those people, young or old, whatever it is, I think it's so important, because how else do you do this, right? If not, it's just trial and error. Like, I'm gonna just do this on my own. Heck no. And as much as my single friends love me, and I mean, we just cut for each other in the craziest ways. That's one way that they couldn't support me. You know what I mean? So I think for me, knowing, and again, preparing myself for marriage, how do I surround myself with people that can be a resource to me, and I can really lean on when I get older. I love what you said about that, because I think it's so important. And where do we find those people who love us and just want to see us win? You know, they just want to see our relationship better, our family better, our walk with God better, all that. I think it's huge to have that. I think the Christian walk is hard, especially as a young adult. Like, you have so many great things going for you. You're great. Woo, woo, woo. There's probably guys all over, right? So how do you, as a young lady, navigate that? Or being a professional? What does it look like to be a professional? A Black professional, Black female professional that's also a Christian? That is so much by itself, right? So how do you handle that type of stuff? I think stretching yourself has to become part of your regular rhythm in your walk with God. And I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying this is kind of where I'm at with myself. It's just finding new ways to grow spiritually, you know. And I think one, the Lord's not gonna hide the ball from you. Like, it's not this difficult concept. He just wants to know that your heart is willing, that you're here to grow. And I think He'll speak to you in the craziest ways. But I think when the Lord sees that hunger in us, that passion to grow, I think He'll reveal whatever medium He wants to use to do it in. And so that can be that.
What would you say has been the most profound thing that has happened in a relationship in this season of your life?
So learning who I really am and who I wanted to become, right? And who I wanted to be with. So like you said, you're in this phase now of learning that about yourself. So when I get to law school, I'm around all these like super strong Black women. They're all like lawyers and all that. And so I was like, that is what I want. I want that, right? So over time, being in that space and being around them all the time, I think I developed subconsciously like I was starting to like my girlfriend less, and this idea of what I should have in my head more, right? And so that led to us breaking up. Then I get to go at all these girls, right? So I'm like, mess with these girls and realizing that a lot of them liked me just for who, like the idea of me, like I'm a Black attorney, or I'm a young professional, or I dress nice, or whatever. I live downtown, but it wasn't for who I was, right? The things that I loved at my core, they didn't love, all that type of stuff. And I think I was so drawn to the glitz and glamour of being in that profession and being a young professional in a growing city, whatever. And so it took dating a couple of people or whatever to really figure that out. Like, y'all are trash. Y'all are self-absorbed. And I'm overgeneralizing, but you know what I mean? The chicks that I chose, it was just like, why am I doing this? And so we ended up getting back together after some time. And I'm so grateful, because I know better who I am and what's important to me, and all of that she is, like all of it. Like, she is the most compassionate person, and she's a deep feeler, and she like loves people, and she's just incredible. Like, she's so incredible. She is so incredible. A lot of those things though, I am not. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. We're just different in so many ways. But those things are great for me, because I think she makes me more empathetic, and she makes me more aware of my surroundings, or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many things that she just makes me better because she is those things.
Yeah.
And um, and so that was that year period. I joke with her all the time now, but I'm grateful for it because I don't think I had a clue of what I wanted. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And it all sounds good. I mean, kind of like that list we were talking about it. Like nobody on their list is saying I want a bum or I want somebody who don't have no good job or I don't. You know what I mean? Everybody
Yeah.
says these abstract terms, um, but I think the reality is very few people have all of what we want, and some of us have no clue what we want. We just saw movies and things like that, and
Mm-hmm.
that we can go find this person. And so I'm able to love her now and listen to her now and even see her grow and support her in whatever she needs to do because I appreciate those things. I'm not trying to make her something she's not, and I don't want anything else. I think I'm able to be a better me because I understand who she is,
Mm.
right? And I think had I not gone through an experience like that, that I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to love her the way God wants me to love her because I think I see her completely different. And I mean, it wasn't without its fair share of heartache.
It's important for us to know who we are as individuals when we come into a relationship, whether that be a friendship, a marriage, a whatever that looks like for you in your life. But I think it's important that you know who you are and know what you're bringing to the table because people's hearts are at stake, people's souls, people's lives,
Yeah.
and those are not things that we should take lightly. Like those are big like things that like God has given us the ability to have access to, and that's not something that you want to play with.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
Okay, friends. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this Testimony Tuesday as much as I did. Alfred, thank you again. I really enjoyed our conversation. That was some really good content. Thanks for your time.
No, like I said, I'm so proud of you, man. I think my prayer is that people are blessed by this. And I hope that, I got to play a small part in that. So keep up the good work. So proud of you, man. We
Thank you.
miss
That
you in
means a
Dallas.
lot. Oh, I miss being there. If you guys have any questions, any comments, concerns, anything that you'd like us to talk about for the next time, feel free to share those below. And for now, I hope I'll see you next week. Don't forget to keep on
Going with him.